this Packers team is still 4-2. They're still very much in the NFC North race as much as there is one going into Week 7 of the season. So, who is now though the team to beat in the NFC? What do you think, Heath?
The most consistent team's been the Eagles, and I always start old school. What's my offensive line look like? What's my defensive line look like? I think you're going to be hard-pressed to find me two better units in the league, not just in the NFC. I know what Seattle's defensive line looks like. I also know what their offensive line looks like. And so that's what leads me to put the Eagles in my number one spot in the NFC right now. They have a quarterback that his mobility breaks, defensive line like Seattle has to offer. He breaks those type teams back. And then Fletcher Cox. Where do I even go? Bradham last. Listen, on Thursday night, Bradham on defense, where'd he come from? He was hitting everything that moves. These two safeties that do not get enough credit. McLeod got hurt earlier in the year. There were some things that kind of went wrong. But between Malcolm and McLeod, the things that they can do defensively because of the mental monsters and the physical monsters they are, this defense is special. Athletic linebackers. And then, we get LeGarrette Blount. You got some wide receivers that are making plays. And Aguilar, is coming out of nowhere doing things that, this team is very scary in a lot of ways when you try to measure how can a team beat you when it matters in December and January football.
QB's not bad either.
I love that.
If they get Ronald Darby back?
Carson Wentz, potential. Fletcher Cox, great player nobody really knows about, but terrific player.
In the aftermath, yeah.
Russell Wilson, Earl Thomas, Richard Sherman, Pete Carroll, champions. That team knows exactly how to turn it up and turn it on. They have not wowed anybody yet. They added Sheldon Richardson, who we saw against the Rams.
To play well last
starting
week.
to make a pretty big impact. Got Michael Bennett, Bobby Wagner. There are just too many guys on that Seattle Seahawks team who know what it takes to rev it up. Aaron Rodgers now presumably not around to give them, I think, their best threat. And, I just believe they still have unfinished business. They were 2 feet away from back-to-back championships. They've hung around. Earl Thomas injury derailed them last year. I think the Seahawks are the team to beat.
I like Seattle as well, but I'm going to go a little off the grid. The Los Angeles Rams are a team. A guy called me crazy, but we've got to keep an eye on them.
Crazy.
You talked
You're
about,
crazy.
No. I'm not saying, okay, they may not come completely out of it and go to the Super Bowl.
Right.
They may not come out of the Super Bowl, but you talked about offensive and defensive lines. Not bad for the you got Aaron Donald and Michael Brockers and Robert Quinn and those guys and Connor Barwin on defense. Offensively, that offensive line is playing significantly better.
Right.
Okay, they've got some issues in the secondary, but the running game, Todd Gurley, now you got special teams, Farrell Cooper here popping one.
They scare me because of defensive line, and Seattle scares me because of offensive line. And so that's why I look at the
Rams defensive line scares you?
Look at the running they gave up yesterday. Like, you got to be able to eliminate something a team does, and that defense is very, very spotty.
You don't think big bruising guy.
Listen, I'm a big
you don't think
fan.
they're going to get. I think the Rams are the team that could get better. Their schedule is favorable for them to get better.
I agree with both those statements.
Now, when they get into the nitty gritty, and now we get to the playoffs, you still have to say to yourself, if you look at the way the Rams are built, who's really can.
Seattle.
Okay, Seattle gets them. But the NFC.
It's early,
open, man.
Hey,
I agree with you.
Don't sleep on the Panthers either.
No.
Well, and what if the Packers stay afloat long enough to find themselves? I mean, very much in the race. Come week 16, 17 in this NFC North.
Throwing shoulder. It was 6-7 weeks last time with Aaron. That was the left shoulder. Throwing shoulder, I would assume would be very different.
I'm not going to count him out just
yet.
yet.
You get in the playoffs and you got Aaron Rodgers. You always got a chance.
And we've got NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport joining the Aftermath once again here to talk about a couple more injuries. Let's start with another team there in the NFC North, the Detroit Lions, who saw Golden Tate leave that loss to the Saints early.
Left that loss with a shoulder injury. I'm told he's expected to miss some time, likely a couple weeks. They do have a bye, so that is at least a good sign for the Lions, maybe a little bit of time to minimize the absence for Golden Tate, who does have an AC joint sprain in his shoulder, had an MRI today, and that was the diagnosis. Speaking of AC joint sprains, there's a lot of that going around. Jameis Winston, the Bucs starting quarterback, has the same thing, but a much more mild form of this injury. He does have it to his throwing shoulder, so that is a little bit of cause for concern. But my understanding, first of all, Winston having some tests today on that, but my understanding is that this is something that they believe he will be able to play through. Speaking of AC joint sprains, again, Trevor Siemian has the same injury except not on his throwing shoulder. on his non-throwing shoulder. Had that injury yesterday after diving. Actually, you're seeing it right here, diving, trying to prevent a touchdown. This is another one, according to Vance Joseph. They believe he is going to be okay. Had a positive result on the MRI. Not the same for Emmanuel Sanders, though. His receiver has an ankle sprain, going to be out this week against the Chargers and maybe another week after that.
Yeah, Siemian dealt with an injury to his non-throwing shoulder last year as well, so we'll see how he's able to deal with that moving forward.
This one's not as bad.
Not as bad. Okay, well, good to know. Thanks very much, Ian. Appreciate your insight there. And when we come back here on the